Hey, thanks, Brother Oscar. First of all, I want to thank everybody in this space. When I look around, I'm grateful to be with people who are like-minded, willing to pick up a shovel and get busy. You know, you don't have to dedicate your whole life, but you can pick up a shovel and start digging. And what is an ocean but a multitude of drops? And the person that I'm sharing this conversation with, I consider a really good brother. He's a leader in the coalition movement, a graduate from Stanford University, and a fellow with the ACLU of Southern California, Jonathan George Contreras. So, brother, please take it away.
Thank- Excuse me. Thanks, Nick. Thanks for being here, everyone. I'll be doing our Know Your Rights component. Bear with me while I share screen. Like Nick said, I'm an attorney with the ACLU of Southern California, and I run our Deported Veterans campaign. Very grateful and honored to be here. Share with sound. Can you see the PowerPoint slide?
Yeah,
Thank you. Yeah, so purpose of today's training is discussing constitutional rights that you have when engaging with ICE, CBP, and in general law enforcement, but focused on immigration. Before I continue, ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, they're basically the federal agents that detain and deport non-citizens in the United States, versus CBP, Customs and Border Protection. They handle enforcement at the border, but I'm going to use them kind of interchangeably, partly because CBP is ramping up their deportation efforts and trying to gain more jurisdiction there. But in either event, that's what ICE is. So quick roadmap of today's training. First, I'll quickly review the purpose in a little more detail and some important reminders. After that, discuss some of the relevant context for repatriated veterans. And then we'll get into the meat of today's training, your rights when engaging with ICE. We'll see what this looks like in practice. We'll practice together, in fact, and including through some videos. I do want to caution, these videos are amazing and so useful. I think it's so helpful to see them, these rights used in context. They're animated, but they're pretty visceral, pretty real. And so I do want to give a warning for folks that have gone through the immigration system or have had family that had could be re-traumatizing or upsetting. I'll give another warning before we get there. And as a reminder, this training is being recorded. So if you want to step away at that point for like 10 minutes, no problem. So the purpose of today's training, why is this important? Every person within the United States has certain basic rights. These rights apply to everyone, regardless of their immigration status. And no law, practice, or regulation or officer can interfere with a person's constitutional rights unreasonably. So this rule applies to the Department of Homeland Security, so ICE, CBP, as well as state and local police officers. Why this is important, knowing and using these rights can be the difference between ICE arresting you or having the info they need to deport you. It might not be. ICE doesn't always respect constitutional rights, to say the least, and we're in an especially volatile anti-immigrant climate. But for that same reason, all the more reason to give you every fighting chance and knowledge, every protection that you have in these situations. A couple of important reminders. First and foremost, immigration law is very, very complicated. Every situation is different, which is to say the way that immigration law will apply to a specific case will vary from person to person. That's why none of this is legal advice specific to anyone. It's just general information because it can't be legal advice by definition. If you need legal advice regarding your immigration situation, or if you're detained or in deportation proceedings, talk to an immigration attorney. I'll provide info later in the slides on how you can find some at low to no cost. And by that same token, need to remind everyone, this is not to give you the false sense that you can give immigration advice. It really does need to be someone familiar, not just someone, an immigration attorney familiar with your case to give you safe and reliable information. Why are these rights important to repatriated veterans, specifically repatriated, meaning formerly deported, now back in the US? In short, just because a veteran is back in the US does not mean they are safe from being detained or deported by ICE. Quite the opposite. In fact, most veterans that came back initially did so through something called humanitarian parole. Parole is temporary. It doesn't provide protection from deportation. Some veterans are still in that situation, just here on parole. And other veterans have restored their lawful permanent residence or green cards. But even some of them, many of them, in fact, may still be deportable. And lastly, just for the full landscape, some veterans have naturalized, have gotten their citizenship, which is amazing. Those veterans are protected from deportation, but they're very much in the minority. Oh, cool. Someone drew a shape. So all of this is building up to the first major ask and takeaway. Please don't reveal anyone's immigration status, like period. That includes like, even if they've done so previously, even if they've shared it with you, even if they've disclosed their own immigration status publicly, check in with them, that individual, before doing so, and don't pressure them into sharing that. In fact, like, please remind them they don't need to, and it might be dangerous to. It could put them at risk of being detained or deported by bringing them to ICE's attention. It's just not worth the risk. And likewise for any veterans or immigrants that are here, or repatriated veterans, I should say, that are here, please take this caution also when revealing your own status moving forward. That might be reason also to revisit if you've posted stuff online that reveals this. But here, especially, I'll emphasize the importance of talking to your attorney about your individual circumstances. Disclaimers out of the way, onto your rights. So as previously stated, the United States Constitution provides certain rights to everyone regardless of immigration status. And that includes when dealing with ICE or CBP. Here they are listed in general, and we'll go over these in more detail. These are the right to remain silent, or in this case, not to respond to ICE's questions or give them any information. The right to be secure in your home, or to be protected from ICE entering and searching your home. The right to be secure against unreasonable searches and seizures, so protections against ICE searching you and your possessions, and the right to an attorney, as well as the right to not sign anything before talking to your attorney. So turning to the first of these rights, the right to remain silent. Under the Fifth Amendment, you have the right to remain silent. A person does not have to answer questions from ICE or other law enforcement officers because people can't be provided, or excuse me, people can't be required to provide self-incriminating testimony. Actually, let me backtrack. More complicated with other law enforcement officers. Let's just focus on ICE because police can stop you, local police can stop you and require information like a traffic stop. So sorry, let me correct myself. We're just talking about ICE here. You have the right to remain silent. You do not have to give them any information, including your name, responding to questions about your immigration status, etc. So arguably, this is the most important of these rights, although I say that only to, like, if you take nothing away from today, like, this one especially, but they're all very important. Um, the right to remain silent is important because it gives people the right to not have their testimony used against them to deport them. And testimony includes anything that you say while you're interacting with ICE. They can use that information against you. Often ICE has no other way to establish that a person is deportable except by that person's own statements. So in other words, ICE has to make the case that you are deportable under the law before they can deport you. And the easiest way for them to do so is to ask you questions or find something on you that establishes that. Don't give them that. Without proof that someone is a non-citizen, for example, ICE can't place them in deportation proceedings. So if you're stopped or detained by ICE or other immigration officials, don't give them any info, don't respond to any questions, don't tell them your name, don't tell them your immigration status. Say, I am revoking my right to remain silent. And part of the purpose of today's training is to get you comfortable using these rights. So all of you, regardless of immigration status, especially because this does apply in many similar ways to engaging with any law enforcement. Say it with me. We're going to do this a couple of times. I am invoking my right to remain silent. And as we'll discuss later, you should also say, I want to talk to my attorney. But after that, you say nothing. ICE asks, what's your name? You say,
I
where are
am
you from?
invoking my right to be silent. Oh, my bad. Go ahead, John.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you.
yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Nick. You said, I'm invoking my right to remain silent. And then I am ICE. I ask you, where are you from? And you say,
I'm
where are you
invoking my right to
Invoking
be
my right to
silent.
be made silent.
and or nothing.
Um,
You've invoked it. Nothing. Literally say nothing. You don't need to respond. They're going to pressure you. That's part of why important to practice. Thank you for the back and forth. Um,
Gotcha.
so moving on to the right to be secure in your home. Under the Fourth Amendment, you're protected your right to be secure in your home against unreasonable search. So under the Fourth Amendment, ICE and police in general can't enter a person's home or search a person's belongings unless they have a warrant signed by a judge, a proper warrant. We'll talk a little bit more about what that means. ICE will very rarely have that warrant, even if they pretend they do, and they often will. So they can't enter unless they have that warrant or unless you consent to it. Don't consent to it, and they'll try to trick you into consenting to it. If ICE comes to your home, most importantly, don't open the door, even a little bit. Don't open it to confirm who they are, to see the warrant, anything, or they may try to enter. You're going to say, again, say it with me. I do not consent to you entering my home. Please leave. And here you can, if you remember in the moment, do not consent to you entering my home under my Fourth Amendment protection. It sort of signals that you know your rights and can help deter them trying to act improperly, unconstitutionally, I should say. So if they claim to have a warrant, ask them to slide it under the door, take a picture. It should have your name and be signed by a judge to be a proper warrant to enter your home. Very rarely it's going to be that. In practice, though, that's hard to do in the moment. So to figure out if it's a proper warrant or not. So in general, golden rule is just don't open the door. They might enter anyway. So you might be wondering what's the point, and we'll come back to that. But in general, saying these statements have legal significance. They can help you fight anything that's unconstitutionally found during these searches. The right to be secure against search and seizure. The Fourth Amendment also protects you against unreasonable search and seizure. In other words, ICE generally has to have a warrant also to search your belongings. There are some exceptions, including if you are in a border region. That's a very big one. And that region includes 100 miles from borders, national borders, so with Mexico and Canada, not state borders, coasts, and airports. CBP is trying to expand its domain so that maybe even further. This includes a lot of the US. So in general, if you're in a state that touches the coasts or a border, don't carry things on you that might reveal your immigration status, green cards being the exception, because they may search you. But in any event, even if you are in a border region, you want to say, and again, with me, I do not consent to this search under my Fourth Amendment right.
Excuse me, I'm sorry to interrupt. I have my humanitarian parole work authorization that expired. I should not keep that in my wallet because it is expired then? Just carry my military ID and that's it?
Hey, brother Juan, we're gonna save the questions for the end of the whole segment.
Okay.
So we'll follow
All right.
back up with this, and that might be a question you reach out to your attorney because
Okay.
it's specifically towards you.
You got it,
Go
brother.
ahead, go ahead, brother John.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you. So moving on. And actually, time check, Nick. How much time do I have left?
You're good, brother. Keep on going. There's
Okay,
no rush.
thanks. Next, the right to an attorney. You have the right to have and speak to an attorney, even if you don't already have one. And that's an important distinction. You want to claim or invoke your right to speak with your attorney and say it as such, even if you don't have one, because that allows you to go find one. This one is also very important because, as I said, immigration law is super complicated to begin with. Number two, realistically, this is probably going to be one of the most stressful moments of your life. You want someone there to help advocate and protect your rights before you say anything. So again, say it with me. I want to speak to my attorney. I will not answer any questions without my attorney present. Distinction here for immigration law versus if you were fighting a criminal charge in criminal court, you don't have the right to a free attorney, which is to say the government doesn't have to provide you with an attorney, but there are organizations across the country that provide free or low-cost immigration representation. Here's a directory at the bottom that can help you find them. Super important if you're arrested, detained, or otherwise dealing with ICE to have an attorney. And lastly, the right to not sign anything before talking to your attorney. This sounds like a small point, but it's actually a very big one. ICE will often present you with forms that's trying to get you to waive your right to a proper deportation proceeding. So like appearing before a judge, or waive your right to or ability to appeal your deportation, to apply for asylum, things like that. So very, very important. Don't sign anything. Don't sign it until you can review it with an attorney. And you also want to keep any forms that they give you, any documents that ICE gives you. That often contains important information about like when your deportation case or hearing is, et cetera, et cetera. So why is exercising these rights important? As I previously said, often the only evidence that ICE has that you are deportable is from information you give them, things that you say, or documents that you provide. That being said, all of this with the caveat of ICE doesn't always abide by the Constitution, especially now, I would say, and that I need to warn you, enforcing your rights may cause ICE to become agitated, to get angry. It could lead to harassment or violence. So consider that in the moment and prioritize your safety as well. Golden rule, though, is to stay calm and don't escalate or try to run. And when you can, document any abuse or violence. This is also why it's important to record these encounters as advocates where legal, which we'll come back to. And lastly, important to invoke these rights and enforce them, because even if ICE doesn't abide by your Fourth Amendment protection against them entering your home without a warrant, you can, during your deportation case, you can move to suppress any evidence that they gathered when they did that. Sometimes, again, very complicated, need an immigration attorney. But generally speaking, you can, by invoking those rights in the moment, later in immigration court, you can prevent ICE from using what they got during that search. In practice, so a couple of examples, or what does this look like in the moment? First, identifying ICE and CBP for that matter. Here are ICE and CBP trucks, and one version of what ICE could be wearing. The main point, though, is that unfortunately, ICE officers are often in regular clothing and unmarked vehicles. So you very likely won't see ICE insignia on them. How do you distinguish them from local law enforcement, from police officers? Often the police are going to be in uniform. So if someone's coming up to you and acting like a cop, that might be ICE. What to do if ICE is at your home? Quickly, so putting these together, don't open the door even a little bit. Don't consent to ICE entering or searching your home. Ask them to slide the warrant under the door. And also, if they enter by force or they do start searching, don't try to stop them. You just say, I do not consent to you entering my home, please leave. And if they do enter and start searching, I do not consent to you searching my home. If ICE stops you in public, don't provide them any information or documents, including your name. Ask if you are free to go. If they say yes, walk away calmly. So again, am I free to go? Yes, walk away. No, then invoke your right to remain silent, and don't consent to being searched. And if ICE arrests you, don't say anything without an attorney present. I will not answer any questions without my attorney present. Don't sign anything until you can review it with an attorney, and keep any documents that ICE gives you. There are these demonstration videos, and here actually I will again ask for time because this could be another 10 minutes, or I can just link them and not show them now.
Oscar, are we okay to watch
I
the
think we
videos
are.
or do?
No, we're good to
Okay.
go. Yeah, we're good to
Go
go,
ahead,
folks.
brother.
Thank you. Yeah, these videos are great. There's a lot of, to begin with, people that want to help. Like, as horrible as things are, what I find really inspiring in doing this work, what keeps me going, is seeing people show up, including you all here. And that energy is used to create a lot of resources that are out there that you can watch to learn your rights, share with others. These videos are one great resource. They're available in multiple languages. You can find them here at this link. We have rights.us. And I'm going to show you a couple of these so we can see these rights being used and what these engagements with ICE look like. Here again, I'll show the warning that the next 10 minutes or so, they're animated videos, but nonetheless, like, pretty realistic and based on real stories. So if you do have experience with ICE, if you've been detained or deported, this could be upsetting. If you want to come back in 10 minutes, and if you're not in the headspace for that right now, no problem. Please feel free to. So here is the first one. This video deals with ICE being at your front door. Can you hear that? I just paused it, but before, okay.
Yeah.
It was 5:30 a.m. when ICE came to Esther's apartment. ICE stands for Immigration and Customs Enforcement. The agents lied to Esther, saying they were police officers investigating a crime and her husband, Alexei, was a potential witness. "Is Alexei home?" they asked innocently. Now Esther's gut told her she should cooperate, but she remembered something she'd heard on the radio. ICE had been making early morning sweeps using tricks like this to get people to open their doors. Esther remembered she had rights. ICE may try similar tricks at your home. They may say they're looking for a friend, relative, or roommate. But do not be fooled, and do not open the door. Instead, remain calm and be polite. Tell the agents that you'd like to see a warrant and their ID. Ask them to slip these documents under the door or hold them up to the peephole. Without a warrant signed by a judge, ICE is not allowed to enter or search your home. ICE usually won't have a warrant, but they may lie and say they do or show you something else that looks official. So look carefully and take pictures of whatever they show you. If they refuse to share any of these documents, then ask them for their card and contact information. Do not show the agents anything or say anything except, "I do not consent for you to enter my home. I do not want to talk to you without a lawyer present. Please leave." Now, ICE won't always listen to you and may enter your home using force. But saying these things might help you in court, even if the agents don't listen. The other videos in this series will help you understand your rights if ICE enters your home or arrests you. Esther and Alexei knew their rights, and the officers left. This is all scary, but remember, we have rights. After an encounter with ICE, take notes about what happened, writing down as many details as you can remember. This information might be helpful in future immigration proceedings. It's important that you and your loved ones are prepared for encounters with ICE, and that you have a plan for what to do if one of you is arrested, including information about who to call. If ICE comes to your home, remember, you have rights. Do not open the door. Ask to see a warrant signed by a judge. Tell them you do not consent to them being at your home. Please leave. If a loved one is arrested, you should be able to locate them at locator.ice.gov.
That is the first video. There we go. Second video, same idea. What if ICE approaches you in public?
It was a normal afternoon. Judy and her friend Liz went out for lunch. The two met in elementary school and have been friends ever since. Liz is an American citizen, and while Judy was brought to the U.S. by her parents when she was only 4 years old, she is undocumented. Liz noticed two men that seemed to be following them, but she thought nothing of it. That's when the men called out Judy's name as if they were old friends. When she turned, the men approached fast. Judy had just been identified by ICE. ICE stands for Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Stories like this happen every day and are happening now more than ever. ICE approaches people in the street, at work, in their car, or even in court. They often will not be in uniform. It's scary. But remember, we have rights. If you are stopped by authorities and don't know who they are, ask them to identify themselves. Then ask, "Am I free to go?" If they say yes, walk away and do not answer any questions. In Judy's case, the agents told her she was not free to go. If this happens, do not resist or run away, and do not say anything, except, "I want to use my right to remain silent. I want to speak to a lawyer." Remember, you can ask to speak to a lawyer even if you don't have one. If the agents search your bag or your person, say, "I do not agree to this search." They are looking for documents proving your immigration status. Witnesses have the right to film the interaction as long as they do not interrupt the arrest and they are transparent that they are filming. Judy was lucky. Even if you do everything right in a similar scenario, ICE may still arrest you. Another video in this series will help you understand your rights if you are arrested. After the encounter, Judy and Liz took notes about what happened, writing down as many details as they could remember. Be sure that you and your loved ones are prepared for encounters with ICE.
Jonathan, want to jump in? I know we're waiting for questions towards the end, but there was a good one about the video in here. Are these videos also available in Espanol, in Spanish?
Yeah. Thank you for asking.
Hell yeah.
And in fact, many languages, French, Creole, Mandarin. Yeah, thank you for asking.
Perfect. And that's with the same link, correct? That we shared that we read. Oh, perfect. Great. Thanks, Jonathan.
So yeah, there are other videos that detail other encounters. If you're arrested, for example, by ICE, your rights there. Similar ideas though, remain silent, speak with an attorney, etc. So please do review those. As mentioned in the video, what can you do now to prepare? Number one, know these rights and practice them. And number two, plan ahead. These are difficult things to contend with, but you and your family will be all the better situated if you do create a plan, if any of this happens. So number one is to carry a red card with you. These are cards that are printed with these sentences. So I invoke my right to remain silent, etc. I'll provide a link to that later in the presentation that will be shared with all of you. Useful to have one in your wallet, in your car, by the front door. That will just help you in the moment to invoke these rights. And second, create an emergency plan. And again, I'll link to a sample emergency plan. Don't carry it with you because you don't want ICE to get this information. Put it somewhere and let friends and family that you trust know where it is. This is a plan in case you're arrested or detained. That includes things like emergency contacts, names of family members and children, where they go to school, your medications, name of your attorney, or where they can find an attorney for you, etc. And lastly, and sorry, I'll ask time check again.
You're good, brother.
Okay.
Go. Yeah. Don't feel rushed.
Thank you. The last part of this, being an advocate in this space and what are your rights. So what I just described applies to you as well. But what opportunities do you have to help as an advocate? The first, and we'll talk about this in more detail next, is recording ICE arrests and enforcement in public. That's in some states. We'll come back to that. That's important to help reveal constitutional violations, bring to light like violence and harassment that ICE is doing, and can also help that person in their case. But there's certain things you want to keep in mind when doing so, to keep you safe, to keep the person getting arrested safe, etc. And then where a lot of the support can happen and make a big difference is local practical support, things that help folks avoid these interactions with ICE in the first place, day to day. There are national resources, but often making that connection between an individual and those resources is more difficult, especially depending on where you are. So helping to create that in your community, to share that information, to create these plans, can make a really big difference, and I think is worth investing energy in. So share resources and warnings about ICE raids and checkpoints, texting people, things like that. And things like offering to be an emergency contact for someone, or to pick up their children from schools if there's ICE enforcement at schools, as we're seeing, or outside of schools, I should say, drop off groceries, things like that. And here I will salute all of you, because these are things that I actually have learned a lot from folks like you. No one goes to bat for one another as much as veterans do. Just practice that in this space in ways that you already know how and are experts. So recording ICE arrests and enforcements, you do have the First Amendment right to film ICE so long as you don't interfere with the arrest or enforcement. The tricky thing is states vary on whether filming constitutes interference. So some states do directly allow for recording, like that's an affirmative right, either by their courts or there's a law in place. Those are New York and California, amongst other states. Most others, though, this will come down to if it's a one-party recording state or an all-party recording state, meaning do all parties need to consent to being recorded, or does one party? Sorry that I can't provide more specific because it does vary by state. But I will also share, to the extent possible, which might not be much, starters on where you can figure that out for the states that you're in. So if you're recording ICE, stay calm and keep your distance so that they can't claim that you're interfering. If they ask you to back up, and maybe even on the film, narrate that you're backing up, and keep the camera on ICE, comply with orders to back up, and consider impacts on your safety and the safety of the immigrant being arrested. And in fact, I have one last video on this.
On his way to work one morning, Abdi noticed an SUV in front of his neighbor Andrea's home. When Andrea came outside, two men approached her. It was ICE. ICE stands for Immigration and Customs Enforcement. If you witness ICE or any law enforcement agents making an arrest in public, it is your right to film the interaction as long as you do not interfere with the arrest. ICE doesn't always respect these rights, and sometimes will target the person filming, so always assess your personal risk before hitting record. If you're not comfortable filming, that's okay. You can still document the arrest by taking notes on what happens or simply bearing witness. This is all scary, but remember, we have rights. When documenting an arrest, film openly and comply with any instructions the agents give you. If the agents tell you to stop filming, you can tell them, "I am exercising my right to document this arrest." Abdi let Andrea know that he was there to support her and document the agent's behavior. If the agents ask you to step back, document yourself complying and continue filming if you feel comfortable. Always keep your camera focused on law enforcement, not the person being arrested or their family members. Showing their identities can make them vulnerable to retaliation. The agents claimed to have a warrant, but it was not signed by a judge. Be sure to capture details like any documents the agents are carrying, as well as weapons, badges, and uniforms. Capture context, such as street signs, landmarks, and any other cameras that are present, but don't stop recording in between shots. If the agents become violent, remain calm and allow your footage to speak for itself. If you do narrate, focus on facts, such as time of day and number of agents. Do not reveal the identity of the person being detained, their immigration status, or their criminal history. Anything the agents learn during an arrest can be used in court. ICE does not have the right to confiscate your phone or to delete your footage, but they may try anyway. Lock your phone with at least a 6-digit passcode. Your passwords are protected under your Fifth Amendment right, but fingerprint ID, facial recognition, and pattern lock are not. Andrea was arrested. Other videos in this series will help you understand what your rights are if ICE arrests you or.
And lastly, with apologies for running way over, some resources. This first one is the Immigrant Legal Resource Center. Fantastic resources. I relied on them heavily in creating this. These links will be shared with you. And a list, again, of nonprofit legal service providers if you need an immigration attorney at low to no cost. I will be around to answer questions. I think that's at the end after the next presenter, but I hand it back to you, Nick. Thanks, everyone.
Truly grateful, Brother John. With some things I wanted to circle back on, just for some of the people in this space, is like when you're preparing for, these events to happen, God forbid, it's important that you guys have applications like Doc Scanner, so you can have these paper forms uploaded to the cloud. And when you have a cell phone, just reverse engineer what happened to you when you're going through your deportation process. Did they give you your cell phone when you went to your country of origin? If they didn't, prepare to have your phone unlocked or to have money on you. So when you get deported to your country of origin, you'll be able to purchase a cell phone. Make sure it's not a two-step security key when you're accessing your Google Cloud, because it's going to be a world of hurt when you're trying to access these documents. Upload your DD-214 Social Security card, your VA benefits document. And if you have a bank account in the United States, make sure your debit cards are renewed so they don't expire when you get deported. Okay, make sure you have two debit cards, so if you lose one in the process, you'll have the other one to fall back on. Okay. Other things is your communication security. Use Signal. These are applications. Use WhatsApp, something that's encrypted. And like Brother John said, be cognizant of your social media, because these are identifying factors that ICBP could use against you. So with that, also, I want to pass the mic off to my sister, Diane Vega. She's an excellent advocate in the border region of El Paso, Texas, and she's been working with deported veterans for since 2019. So go ahead, sis.
Thank you very much, Nick. I appreciate that. Good morning, everyone. It is my pleasure to introduce the following speaker. It is Kirsten Handel, a dedicated representative from Senator Tammy Duckworth's office. Kirsten plays a vital role in supporting the senator's efforts to advocate for equity, inclusion, and the well-being of communities, especially those most vulnerable. With a strong background in public service and an unwavering commitment to addressing the challenges faced by non-citizens, Kirsten brings a valuable insight into how federal initiatives can provide meaningful support. She has been instrumental in shaping and implementing policies aimed at creating more inclusive society. We are honored to have her here today and to share her knowledge and discuss how the federal government is working to uplift and protect vulnerable non-citizens. Please join me in welcoming Kirsten Heindel. Ma'am, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Wow, that was such a great introduction that I did not deserve, but I really, really appreciate it. And thank you all for having me here. And thank you all for your service. I know many of you on here are veterans yourself, or military spouses. So I speak on behalf of Senator Duckworth when saying thank you for your service. So I'll dive right into it. I'm here to talk about how your federal representatives can help you. And I know these are very scary times. And so, again, I'm no lawyer, I'm no attorney. This is work that we do in our office. And unfortunately, I wish I could say that every office does this kind of work. But the reality is that they don't. The only thing that Congress people are expected to do are to vote on bills. So this constituent services that is offered, it looks very differently from throughout different offices. And I will try to share this as generically as possible so that you all in different states and even abroad can know what to do when you're reaching out to your federal elected officials. So again, my name is Kirsten Heindel. I am the casework director for Senator Duckworth. I'm based here in Chicago. So I apologize too if my if I'm coming at it at a lens of Illinois. We are a sanctuary city here in Chicago. We are a sanctuary state. So again, I'm going to try to make this as generic as possible, so that it's applicable to any folks here. So I'm just sharing a little bit of legislative actions and advocacy that Senator Duckworth has taken throughout her time in the Senate. She was elected in 2016, and since joining the Senate, she's made advocating on behalf of deported veterans a huge mission of hers. She is a combat veteran herself. She served in the Iraq War. She's a part of the Illinois National Guard. She is a lieutenant colonel. And so I think, like many folks, she was shocked to hear that there is a thing such as deported veterans. And so she has made it her mission since then to make sure that our veterans and our folks who join the armed services, to sacrifice on behalf of this great country, that they are given the protections and the benefits that they've earned. And so I just shared a few different legislative actions she's taken. I apologize, I'm not on the legislative team, so I can't go into specifics about what that all looks like. But for folks on the call who are wondering how they can advocate even more, reach out to your congressperson, to your senators, and ask that they support these bills. There's a lot of power in your stories, and I would, try to reach out to those folks and share your stories with them so that you can let them know that these are things that are affecting their constituents. She also came out with a report of deported veterans back in, I believe, 2019, which is around the same time that she went to Tijuana on Veterans Day. She visited the Deported Veterans Support House in Tijuana and met with a lot of our deported veteran folks out there. All right, so I'll dive into this, the more tangible items of what you can do to reach out and how your elected official can work for you. So constituent services or casework, you'll kind of hear both interchangeably. We just serve as liaisons with federal agencies. So we all have our own congressional liaisons within all federal agencies, even state agencies I've worked with. So that includes all of DHS, ICE, CBP, USCIS, also the VA and the DoD, because I know some folks here maybe are waiting on their benefits packages or discharge upgrades. If you're wondering, how like the status of those or how we can kind of push those through the finish line, your congressional representative can reach out to those agencies on your behalf. So I included here links. If you're not sure who your representative is in the House, you can use your zip code to find that out. And then your two senators, you would just plug in your state to figure out who those folks are. And again, not every congressperson is willing to do this work. In those cases, please reach out to me. I'm more than happy to reach out to their offices to try to work something out, or Senator Duckworth, as a veteran herself, our policies that we help veterans and active duty service members from any state and abroad. So initiating contact, you're going to want to go to either your representative's website and click on anything there that says help with a federal agency or contact an agency or I'm having a problem, because the intake for starting a case is a lot different from, say, saying that you want them to support a bill. When you're submitting opinions about legislative actions, those are going to take a lot longer to get to. So when you focus more on the casework intake part of it, that'll get you a lot quicker results. I also, if you want, prefer to call somebody and speak to them ahead of time, call the state office or the district office, not DC. And you can ask to speak with either a constituent service representative, a caseworker, a veterans coordinator, an immigration coordinator. Don't call DC because, you can, and hopefully they have, again, the infrastructure to route your call to where it should be. But DC primarily works on the legislative side of things, whereas your state or district office will do more of the case-by-case work there. And I'll just kind of give a little bit of advice on what to include and how to reach out to these offices. So every single office is going to need a privacy waiver. So those, again, are called either a Privacy Act release form, a PARF, a PAR, PRF, but they're all the same thing. It's a piece of paper that you sign saying that you are allowing the agency to disclose your very private and sensitive information to the congressperson's office. And so every single office will need that in any case. Because this is the federal government and nothing is easy or straightforward, different agencies will ask for a second privacy waiver. And so for the purpose of this call, I included those forms for the more common ones that we see. So USCIS has their own form. So again, if you just want to kind of cut down on that time and the back and forth with these offices, go ahead and include the agency specific form as well. Again, you're just cutting out time and making sure that your case gets the full attention that it deserves. So USCIS has their own, ICE also has their own, and the most important thing with those ICE waivers is that you're including your A number. That is how they are able to identify your case. And then EOIR, the Executive Office of Immigration Review, is with the DOJ, because again, nothing can be straightforward. There's 10 different agencies working cases at any time. The EOIR also has their own form. And again, you really want to make sure that you are including your A number there. These forms also must have your real signature. So a DocuSign, pre-font electronic signature, those aren't going to work. Our office has our form online and you can use your finger or your mouse pad to sign it. Those are allowable because you're still signing it, even though it's digital. And I know that's very confusing. The main takeaway from that is whatever you use to sign your federal documents needs to match what you're putting on these forms, because that's how they're going to identify you at the agency. These forms are generally good for a year. So if you're foreseeing that your case is going to take a long time, just kind of have that in the back of your head that you may need to sign an updated one within the year. And they may be needed to translate to English. Again, every agency is different. Even offices within agencies are different. I've worked with USCIS, Vermont Service Center, Chicago Field Office. They'll accept the Spanish PARFs, but Vermont may not do that. We also have our PARFs in the 5 most commonly spoken languages in Illinois. So we have ours in Spanish, Polish, Urdu, Russian, and Chinese simplified. So again, sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. So just know that if you are filling out your privacy waiver in a different language, you may want to have somebody either translate that and submit a second copy of it, or you can ask the congressional office if they have a bilingual staffer who can help you do that. And then you also want to include your latest correspondence from the agency. That'll kind of just help us get reoriented with the case and where it's at right now, so that we know who to reach out to. Because again, there's this whole maze of people that you have to maybe kind of maneuver before you get to the person that you need to talk to. And then last, it's really helpful for us to have your attorney's information. You'll have to give your attorney the consent that they can share those details, obviously, of your case with us. But it is helpful because they kind of know the terms that the agency is using, so that we can make sure that we are asking them the exact thing that you're looking for. And then just wanted to share what offices can and can't do. So a lot of what I do and my team does here is the majority of it is checking on the status of an application or a request. I'm sure I don't need to tell you all that it can take a very long time for a lot of these processes to play out. So we can follow up with agencies basically on anything. So if you made a request for prosecutorial discretion on your case, if you have a status adjustment that you had applied for, filing those I-485s, we can also reach out, like I alluded to earlier, to the VA about your benefits. Hopefully you all got your PACT Act claims in. those, again, might take a long time, so we can reach out to them. Something I didn't include, but I want to mention too, is your military service records. We can also request those records from the NPRC if you don't have those. And I recommend just getting them anyway, just so that you have it. You might need it down the line, and who knows how long it will take. And then the last one is the status of your discharge upgrade. I know those can also take a very long time. So your congressional representative can reach out to your branch to see the status of that. And kind of on that note, we can request expedited processing. So I've done that with, I think, probably every agency there is out there. If there's no written policy on, what qualifies for expedited processing, I think it's still worth asking, especially if you have extenuating circumstances like a healthcare concern or a family member who has a healthcare concern, utilities getting shut off, eviction notices, things like that. It's always worth just asking. We also will ask for some clarity or review, reconsideration of decisions. A lot of the time, again, you're getting not the most specific insight into why something is denied. And so having that, you're going to want to appeal it, hopefully. And so having the information as to why it was denied will help you to put together your appeal and overcome that next time around. Which leads to my next one, is just asking about appeal options. They may not be fully listed out anywhere that you can find, but for the most part, everything should have an appeal option. You have rights to appeal, especially with the VA. Even with USCIS, there are ways to appeal the decisions that are made. So if you're unsure what those are, we can ask what those are for you. And then we also want to make sure that correspondence is being received on both ends. So let's say you have been told that you were denied because you failed to respond to an RFE or request for evidence. We'll reach out to say, like, hey, can you give us a copy of that? When did you send it? And then on your side, maybe you did get that and you did respond, but the USCIS is saying, no, you didn't. Well, we can show them that you did, you have the postmark, the tracking number, all that information. So just making sure, again, that there's no wires crossed there. And then something that congressional office cannot do is, unfortunately, can't provide any legal advice or refer you to a private attorney. What we do usually is we will refer you to a pro bono or an organization that provides pro bono legal resources or low bono resources. I think the House is not allowed to do that. But I may be wrong on that. I'm not sure. But you can ask for any sort of organizations that they're familiar with that can help out there. And unfortunately, we cannot overturn the agency's decision, checks and balances. I'm sure I don't need to give that spiel. But again, we can ask for more insight as to why that decision was made and ask that they reconsider given, the mitigating factors. But at the end of the day, they do have discretion to make their decisions. And that is something that unfortunately we can't do, but also fortunately, because do you really want some of these Congress people, being able to just call up somebody at ICE to make a decision for them? So yeah, I just wanted to share those things just for full clarity there. That was a lot of information I threw at you all. If you have questions, I don't know if you want to do it now or we can wait till the end there. But hopefully that gave you all a good starting point when you are reaching out. I really do recommend that you do reach out, even if you don't think that you might need help somewhere. Maybe you think that your PACT Act claim is processing as normal, just reach out. Make sure that the agency received what you put in. I would hate for you to be waiting 3 years and then they come back and say, we never got anything. So, it's worth reaching out. And if any of you are having problems reaching out to your elected official, I put my contact information there. Reach out to me and I can, I'll track them down. I'll find them and I'll try to help you out. So thank you all again.
Thank you very much for all that information. You're very right. That was a lot of information, but it was great. And I think these agencies are not used enough, right? I don't think that we reach out enough to them. And we thank you very much for that. But I want to bring in Oscar and Ricardo Reyes into the conversation, especially because they do have experience with legislation, all that good stuff. So Oscar, Ricardo, if you guys don't mind getting off of a mute, would like to know about your experience in legislation and casework, and can you please share a story or an example of the federal programs or that you guys have successfully, been part of, if you guys wouldn't mind.
No, thanks, Dee. I appreciate you looping us in this part. Yeah, folks, I know I don't want to belabor the point. I sound like a broken record. But Kirsten just said, please reach out. Anyone who always usually comes to me because of my past experience working for a congressional office, I always say, please use your rep. Use your rep. There's no harm. They put the congressional flag on whatever you're asking them to look into. So please do that. Yeah, Kirsten said not all offices are created equal, but nonetheless, you know that you have that ability to call your congressperson, Senate or House, and be able to do that. Man, folks, you're right. Again, not all offices are created equal, but when you find an office that's dedicated to help their constituents, you see the beauty of what the federal government can actually offer you as a constituent within that area. I previously worked for Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib in Michigan in her district office, doing some of the same work that Kirsten has done. Where it's casework, where it's getting people in your area to be able to get them to the access to the federal government, the things they need. I don't know if folks know, Detroit, Michigan, Southeast Michigan is definitely a hard hit area when it comes to the income level. It is the third, or it was at least last I checked, was the third most impoverished area in the nation, right? And that comes with folks who need access to a lot of things. Not having, a congressperson who's ready to be there for them can make things even worse and slow things down. But having someone like Rashida, who said from day one she was going to make social workers out of all of us and did, it kind of gave us the lens, like, how do we use the federal government on our behalf? And so we did a lot of great work, right? When it came to access to VA stuff, there was great things that that local area or that an office can do, not just because of the federal government. I'm sure Kirsten can speak to this. The offices become kind of liaisons and network within the community and know, hey, we're not experts at this, but we want to work with the experts in this area. And so a lot of cool things that are offered out there, like free legal services, are things usually your office might be, in touch with. In that area, we had the University of Detroit Mercy offer free legal services to veterans who needed help with their VA benefits. And that's a huge lift. We know we have the VSOs. We know we have all these great people who can help out, but to have the actual attorney next to you for free as you're trying to claim for disability or change your service connection, I mean, that was huge. So know that there's always offices that might not say, hey, I can directly do this, but they might have the connections because the district offices are connected to their community. That's part of their job, is to be as visible as possible. Again, not all offices are equal, but that is one of those definitely big ones that you can always tap into, is their network of people they know. Yeah, and another great story that I can share, that your member of Congress, or you can urge or you can ask for their experiences and what they've done is, I was fortunate enough, and I'll share a couple photos here in a second, let me see if I can get this one going. I was fortunate enough to share the opportunity and the invite. So the invitation, if you are part of an organization and you think that, hey, here's this issue area that I'm really passionate about, and we got some folks in this area, and we're super passionate about it. Let's let our member of Congress know, hey, have you done this, or can we take you, or can we show one of your staff members this issue area? Are they able to come to this church? Are they able to come to this meeting? Are they able to come to this location to find out more about this really important issue area, especially if it's a federal issue area? And so I'm sharing just a couple little folks. I won't go into the actual ones, but you can kind of see, I took a trip with Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib to the border in 2019. We were invited by the U.S. Unified Deported Veterans. And we heard a lot about these guys and the bunker and the resource center as well in the last session that we did last Saturday. So folks, please jump back on the YouTube page, check out those conversations. We had a great time here. I think that's Hector Lopez, right? Right, V? Yeah, that's right here in the middle. And then there's Robert Vivar. I mean, these are all folks who are working tirelessly to make sure that veterans in Tijuana who've been deported had access to resources. And so they made the invitation and luckily got the Congresswoman to show up and expose these things. So just sharing some of these photos. These were we went inside the resource center. Great, got to know a lot of the veterans, got to hear some presentations, got to hear some good information. But this is important. You have the ability to be able to tell your member of Congress, hey, I'm concerned with this issue. We have this coalition. Please join us for this thing. And I'm sure I see Cesar Lopez here. There's some of the vets here who can probably speak to the countless times that they've had folks over at the border or to their event, to their thing. So thank you for give me a couple of moments to share those stories. Again, reiterating, please use the federal government. Ricardo, I don't know if I'm gonna pass it to you to share some of your stories.
Hey everyone. Thank you for having me on. And yeah, as far as so I am my name is Ricardo Reyes. I am the lead organizer for Common Defense in Arizona. And we are very involved in pretty much anything that has to do with the elections here in Arizona. And one of the things that I did want to share is because I was part of Common Defense and because we got involved in this issue, I was able to travel to DC with with a lot of people here actually to go and do some lobbying of the of the congressmen and some senators for deported veterans and HR. What was the HR? Do you remember, Oscar?
Veteran Service Recognition Act.
Yeah.
Yep, 4569. Yep.
So one of the things and we had like some training, right? The LULAC gave us some training before we went on there. And one of the things that I remember the most is they were like, hey, they're going to say some things that you're not going to want to hear. They might even be trying to get a reaction from you. Stay calm and, don't be rude. These are people we're trying to get on our side, even if it's somebody you don't like. Like I went to Gosar's office. Gosar's a dick, right? And he's racist. He's a prick. Like, unfortunately, he's from Arizona. So I had to go and speak to his reps. And, when they would reply with really ignorant things, like, so we were talking about, hey, you know what? This is a veteran issue. We believe this is a good bill. And we would give them our spiel of why this is a good bill. And universally, almost every Republican, I know this is C3, but I'm just, hey, it's a fact. I'm just giving a fact here. I'm not giving an opinion. Almost every Republican was like, well, what we don't want is people running across the border to join to go to a recruiter's office and join the military. And these are people who usually we were talking to like their military representative, right? These are people who should know better. They should know that you can't be undocumented and join the military. So getting into, I know we've talked a lot about like the ICE raids and all that and in general as well, but ultimately when we were there for, advocating for veterans. And our point was the whole issue of deported veterans is something that can and should be a thing of the past. It can and it should be something that doesn't exist anymore. And it is a issue of veterans because it affects veterans, it affects veteran families, and what we were getting pushback, again, almost universally from all Republicans was, this is an immigration issue, you're opening the floodgates. So when people say like disingenuous, like that they should know better, right? We know that they should know better. And although inside, I'm like, you mother, outside I had to be like, look, I understand your concerns. However, this bill is not for like the general public. It is specifically for veterans, it's specifically for nonviolent veterans that were deported because they weren't able to finish their paperwork for a multitude of reasons. And through the other two series, you guys have seen, people talk about why, they weren't able to finish their paperwork or whatever. So that was something that we did. I really, that was the very first time that I met, a lot of the people that are in these spaces. I believe I met Nick. I met a lot of people who are on here. A lot of people who have been in those spaces for years. And every time I come on here, I say like, hey, you know what? I want you guys to take the lead and say the story. Like we're just here to support you guys. So what people can do who aren't themselves a repatriated veteran or somebody who's in danger of being deported. There are lots of things that you can do to get involved, especially if you want to get involved with common defense. In Arizona, we've had protests where we show up. We support people who we think would be great. We've supported some of the Democrats who told us that they were going to fight for us. Maybe some of them made mistakes recently. One mistake in very particular, two senators from Arizona in particular. But that doesn't mean you throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? We have to keep these people and keep them accountable is the big thing. The senators from Arizona, I helped get them elected. I personally made commercials. My face was for both of them, Kelly and Gallego. My face was on their commercials. I'm out there waving flags, telling people they should vote for them because of this and that. And, they're going to support our immigrant community. They're going to support our progressive values. And when they do things, because that's what they told us. I'm not saying it because I'm bullshitting people. I'm saying it because that's what they met with us and said, this is what we want to do. When people like them or any Republican, again, it's C3, any Republican who also, claims to be like, we had a meeting with Congressman Siscomani, and his office told us that they were very interested in this issue, that they were going to help us, that we had a whole, spiel. We met with them for, it was like half an hour. They gave us their time and they were like, hey, yeah, this is important to us. Siscomani's an immigrant. We want to be involved. And then nothing happened. They did nothing. And we came back and we had reporters who came to us and were like, hey, have you heard about these deportations? They were like, yeah, we talked to, Congressman Siscomani about it. And they go to Congressman Siscomani. He's like, I have no idea what you're talking about. So when people don't hold up their end, and when you try to give people support and then they don't do the things they say they're going to do, we have to keep them accountable as people who are here, who can vote, who can keep them accountable, because obviously our repatriated veterans can't vote for the most part unless they got their citizenship recently. Obviously our undocumented community can't vote. So we have to be their voice. We have to vote for them. We have to be their allies. And that's what I really want for people to take from here who are not in danger of being like I said, check your privilege and make sure that you use that privilege to help others. Mass deportations do not affect me. Deported veterans is not going to affect me, but I care. I have empathy because they are my community. They are my fellow man. And if we here stick together and hold people accountable and say, hey, you said you were going to do these things. We need you to actually fight for our thing, for these things that you said you were going to do for us. Then they have to look us back in the face and answer us to like why they didn't do it, why they thought like, oh, yeah, the Lincoln Riley Act was actually a good thing. No, it wasn't. So I plan on the next time I see one of these senators, we've already kind of reached out to them and being like, hey, what's going on? You told us that you were, going to be looking out for us. Why didn't you? What is your reasoning behind sponsoring a bill that says that, undocumented people can be held indefinitely? Because one of those people was asked like, hey, these bills are going to help mass deportations. And they were like, holding someone and deporting them are two different things. Indefinite detention and deportation are two different things. I was very disappointed. I wanted to yell at my screen. So yeah, as far as my experience is, you know what, we get out, we organize, and there's lots of things that everybody can do. Reach out to your common defense, and we will make sure that we give you something to do. All right. I guarantee you, especially if any of you live in like one of our key states, like Arizona, Texas, North Carolina, we are constantly fighting. We constantly need volunteers to do things. And even if you don't, you can also still do stuff for us. So guarantee you, if you reach out, we'll give you something and we'll be excited. The organizers for those states are going to be like, oh my God, I got somebody else who wants to be involved. So that's it for me. I appreciate you guys being here. Please, please, please don't just show up, watch this and be like, all right, that was cool, and then go away. My ask is that you follow up and you actually physically get involved, because this is how we change things. This is how we make sure that people understand that when they're cheering for mass deportations, they're cheering for veterans to be deported. When they're cheering for the Haitians to be kicked out because they were eating the dogs and the cats, the programs that bring the Haitians back are the programs that bring our deported veterans back.
Yep.
People don't understand what they're cheering for. So, and that's, there's also all the economy stuff, that our crops and all that stuff. And those are different conversations that we can have. But yeah, as far as this goes, I appreciate you guys being here. Please, please, please follow up, get involved. I know a lot of you guys are already like in our email list. That's how you got this link. But we have noticed that, a lot of people who answer our links or sign up, that's all they do. And we want to have, especially now with everything that's going on, we need you guys to be more physically involved. And if you can, again, check your privilege, right? If you can. And we appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ricardo. Wow, was that inspiring, you guys? Did that make you guys want to get out of your seats and just join Common Defense? And wow, that was just amazing. Thank you very much. If you guys don't feel a passion, don't feel those words that he said are one of a kind. So thank you very much for all of that. Thank you very much for all the information that you guys have. I know we've come to very long along this. This has been a very, very long webinar. So thank you everybody that's been here. Participants, please, like Ricardo said, get involved, be present, be the barrier that stops veterans from getting deported. Now, please, Oscar,
I put the
finish us
interest
off.
form. Yeah, thanks, Vega. I put the interest form in there, folks. So go ahead, sign that up. We'll get in contact. Either D Vega, one of us from the LVC or staff will be able to get in contact with you. And then, we can start working from there. And all that stuff definitely remains anonymous. We're not posting people's names anywhere or photos of anybody who's helping us anywhere. Folks, again, I'm not going to reiterate a broken record here. We said it. We understand you're here. We understand you want to help. So thank you so much. I am going to open the floor for a couple of questions. But first, before I do that, I did want to put some of the resources that we saw today. Originally, John Contreras, if you can put the link to the videos that you showed, those videos, again, folks, if you joined a little bit late or during it, those videos were awesome. A great basic way to kind of break down, knowing your rights in an animated form. So it was super helpful to have those. So thank you, John, for sharing those. Please take those. We also want to post out some different websites that have the same information or portals to the same information, right? I think in John's presentation, sorry if I'm forgetting, it's in John's presentation about having a red card. I think some folks are very, very aware of that part, but if you don't, please take your time to check some of these websites out. There's a toolkit to know your rights in general. I'm also going to put another one that's Know Your Rights. Oh, perfect. Thank you, John. So he just put it in the chat. There's one link. Here's another link to know from the Immigrant Defense Project, Know Your Rights Against ICE. So another explainer as well. And folks, just in case, all this stuff is going to be emailed to you in case you don't copy and paste it or you got it and you lose it. We're going to send this back out to everybody who registered for all three events. The next one I want to share as well that John wanted us to have is nonprofit legal service nationwide. So there's another link for folks to find nonprofit legal services. And then I've already put the interest form, folks, if you want to hang out with us and get it down. Once again, there's that form. I don't think I have any other links or any other forms. I think this is the moment now where we can take some questions. And then all the presenters, everyone here, please feel free to jump in if you have the answer. But we will go ahead. Hold on, I want to make sure there's not anything I'm missing. Oh, there is one. And I'd love to point this out. I think it's Candace in the chat shared. Candace, I'm trying to find the link again. It shared the app. After John was saying we were seeing the presentation, here it is. After we were seeing the presentation for copy link, I'm going to put it back in for recording an incident. The ACLU SoCal, I think that's the website, has the mobile justice app or link to the mobile justice app. John or Candace or whoever would like to speak, give a couple 30 seconds or 20 seconds on them using the app or what the app has? Because it looks like it's a super useful tool. John, do you have a little to say on it? Yeah.
Yeah, it's not limited to immigration purposes. And here I invite Candace, actually, if you want to add anything. I haven't used it myself, but it's one way that you can record this information, and it links you to where you can upload that and other information. So it's a great start. I feel a little weird. It seems like a self-plug. You can also use your cell phone or something else.
Perfect. Great. Thanks, Jonathan. And then, folks, I'm almost positive everyone here somehow, since you got this, has been a member of Common Defense. But in case you aren't, or you'd like to share our website, please, there's a link to our website. Please sign up. We are a movement of veterans. I will let the webpage itself speak for Common Defense as a whole. But we are here to organize other veterans and military families. That is our thing, and we are showing strength in these numbers. Okay, I think that's all the plugs, all the links, all the everything. Let's open up the floor again. Any speakers? Oh, Vega, you came off. You got one more?
Gerald has a question. He has his hand
Oh, gotcha.
raised. He's
Yeah.
been for a minute there.
Yeah,
Gerald, floor is yours.
I'm a volunteer attorney with Immigration Law and Justice Michigan, and I've been attending these things basically to find out more about what our vets need and how they approach things. But I do want to thank Attorney Contreras and to say now that everything that was said about ICE and know your rights applies to all police agencies, because the Justice Department is now bringing in ATF, DEA, FBI, and there will be many agencies, and the same know your rights precautions apply to any encounter with law enforcement.
Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that, Gerald.
Hey, Oscar, I just wanted to double tap on that. Brother
Yeah.
Gerald, if you want to provide your email contact information, we could loop you into the coalition meetings. That's a conglomerate of other nonprofits, lawyers, and immigrant advocates focusing on deported veterans. So we would love to have you join the fight. Thank you very much, brother.
Yeah. Oh, folks, and then just in case, just as a reminder, thank you for that, Nick. Just as a reminder, anyone who shares anything, please don't share anything confidential. Please keep it as general as possible, because this is being recorded. We'd rather just keep everything as confidential, so keep it as third person or as general as possible if you're going to bring something up that might be specific. Perfect. Thanks, folks. And then if it does sound like it gets super specific, we'll preemptively let you know that it's probably something you want to talk to your attorney about. I think Nick brought that up a little bit earlier with Juan, who went off mute a lot earlier when John was starting to present. So just in case, folks, just wanted to flag those. Okay, the next person I see on my screen is Gary Bradshaw. You have your hand up. If you have a question, please come off mute and ask your question. Gary, you're still on mute, just in case.
GB.
Yeah, I was sorry. I had a
There
hard
we
time
go.
getting this off. Yeah, as I just have a question pertaining to there's something that I don't know if you guys could inform me pertaining to my status. I've back in August I reapplied for an extension or renewal, I should say, on my
brother
I-131.
Bradshaw. This
Yeah.
is gonna be like personal information for you. So hit me on the back channel, and we'll try and help address that, because this is gonna be identifying information for you, bro. So we want to keep it as private as possible with that.
Okay, all right, yeah, because I just want to find out if what's the heck's going on with if your thing is expired. All right.
I got you.
Thank you for
Go
that,
ahead, Oscar.
Gary. Thank you for that, Nick. And yeah, I didn't know how that was going to go. So thanks for folks already flagging that. Brittany, your hand's up. Go ahead and come off mute, and please go ahead and share. Hey. Brittany, you're on mute. Brittany, you're on mute.
We can't hear you, sis.
Sorry, my first call was the last call. So I came in part two. So I'm still even catching up because there is just so many resources and so much information that's being shared here that I'm overwhelmed in the best way. Because I am in Texas. I do work for Common Defense. I'm sorry, that's not in my title here. I am the Texas lead organizer for Common Defense. And then I'm also the staff lead for our Black Veterans Caucus. And when it comes to deported veterans, you know, there's they come in all shapes, sizes, and colors and nationalities. So, or nationalities of origin, by the, you know, but so very connected to this issue. I just wanted to share something, and I did check with Oscar before sharing this because I know this is being recorded, but I just thought that this would be a resource because stuff is getting real, like very real. And it's been like that in Texas, quite honestly. It's nothing new. I mean, it's really nothing new for a lot of the bordering states, you know, but it's like there's just like so much entitlement, and it's not just ICE. You know, like in Texas, you already know there's a law that legally allows any member of law enforcement to ask for documentation and to provide it. And if you don't have it, then they go about their business, which affects not only that individual, but their families and their friends and their jobs and everything. But so I just want to say that like in Texas, we're definitely we call them Team Tejas, the Common Defense members of Texas. We are 100,000% behind this, allies in this sense, and whatever we can do. But I just wanted to share something personally that has been, I hope, effective. Because I'm just trying to think of all the things. I have a son who has special needs, and he happens to be nonverbal. So we run into issues or situations or encounters with law enforcement at times, and they're not able to understand my child, and sometimes vice versa, because he's not able to communicate verbally. I say that to say, I bought these little recording things that you put inside of like teddy bears. You can get like a 20 pack of them for like $6 on Amazon, whatever. You know, you can go in the store and get them at Michael's or whatever. You stuff them in stuffed animals and whatever. But I made a 20-second recording in English, and I put it up with commander strips on my door so that, you know, if any authority comes or anybody that my son is not able to communicate verbally with, he can literally hit that little recording device, and it communicates through the door in English, you know, any message that needs to be conveyed to them. I'm also saying that to say that like I'm volunteering, like if anybody feels like that would be something useful for them, I record my voice. And you know, I've already shared it with some friends who were interested in that, you know, for whatever reason. Mine happened to be because my son is nonverbal, but if anybody feels like they need that, I'm going to put my email address in here also, just because I'm the Texas lead organizer too. So if you're in Texas, Louisiana, or Oklahoma, we're wrangling them all in until we get the, you know, the staff like on state site. But I am 20 minutes from the Oklahoma border. So I am a lot closer to Oklahoma than I am a lot of my Texas members because it's so big. But I'll put my email in the chat if any of that interests you. Just hit me up. But that's all I had.
Thanks, Brittany. I appreciate you sharing that. It's super useful. Okay, I just want to do a quick little time check. We are at 11 my time, 11:41. So we can keep on going. If folks need to drop off, please, by all means. But we do have a recording of this. So this will be shared once again. All right, next on, I got two more folks with their hands up as of right now, Rogelio and then Catherine. Rogelio, you were first, so go ahead, unmute yourself and ask away.
So with the recent policy change on ICE, that like before, ICE could not go into churches and schools, and now they are allowed to go into churches and schools. I live about 15 minutes from the Mexican border. If someone asks me, "Hey, what can I do if if ICE tries to arrest me in school or in church, how do I go by that? If someone asks me that question.
Yeah, and yeah, what you're referring to, ICE had its own policy saying that they wouldn't go into these sensitive areas. So churches, schools, courthouses, they rescinded that policy, as you described. There still might be like school policy or at the state level protections, and often there, or not often, in some states there are. So number one, if it's private, and this might include churches, actually, I haven't looked at that. ICE can't, the same rule applies that ICE can't enter without a warrant. That's private property. So the owner, if it's a business owner, again, church might be a weird exception, can ask them to leave and should ask them to leave and don't comply. One of the videos actually deals with this, employers. Aside from that, though, same rules as if ICE was approaching you in public apply. Don't say anything, ask to speak with an attorney. Really, that's the golden rule, the right to remain silent, don't say anything. And that's where I would, or what I would emphasize. But Gerald, if you want to add anything, or anyone else, by all means.
No, you are absolutely right. People have the right to remain silent. You don't have to give anybody additional evidence.
Thank you, folks. Thank you. I appreciate that information. Thank you for your question,
Thank you, guys. Thank you. That's very helpful. And
I also want
just I live in McAllen, Texas, which is about 15 minutes from the Mexican border. So, that's a very big issue here in my region. So I just wanted to get some knowledge. So I appreciate it, gentlemen.
Thank you for your question, Rogelio. I got Kath.
So sorry.
Go ahead, Jonathan.
I just remembered something that I didn't specify earlier, unrelated to the question, and it was a great question. Actually related to the veteran that came off mute and asked the question. Thank you for doing so. If you're a repatriated veteran, ask your attorney what documents you should or should not be carrying. That it's such tricky immigration situations for the vets that came back that was not general advice that applies to any of you. Please ask your attorneys what parole documents, if any, green card, etc., before making that decision. Sorry. Thank you.
Thanks for adding that, Jonathan. Okay, I wanted to actually point, the chat is bringing up some really great stuff. I think Jennifer, here it is. Jennifer added teachers unions sometimes train teachers to lock the classroom door and ask for a warrant. So back to that basic stuff about asking for a warrant that Jonathan was talking about, right? There's a huge one right there. This is this great conversation, and people are sharing a lot of great stuff. Denver Public School has a plan. Oh, amazing. Yeah, a lot of great stuff in here. Cool. Okay, Catherine, you are your hands up. You have the floor. Go ahead and ask your question or your comment.
Yeah, hi everyone. Kathy here from Whidbey Island, Washington, in Washington State. And I know there's a bunch of other Washington folks in here. My question is really simple. How do I link up with vets who need help? I'm happy to take them to the VA clinic. I'm happy to take their kids to school. I just don't know who needs help in my area. Thank you.
Great question, Catherine. And that's the interest form linking up with us. If we can get your information, we'll talk to you offline. We'll be able to point you in the right direction because we have, and I think it was mentioned, I don't know if it was James or whoever mentioned, we are part Common Defense as an organization, and our members who we've all met as part of the LVC in their own capacities as well, like D. Vega, like James, we are all part of organizations that's part of this big coalition called the Deported Veterans Coalition. And there is a huge resource right there. Jonathan, same thing. Jonathan's part of it. It's a huge hub of information where we can connect people where we need to connect people that has social services, that needs legal representation. We have the info. We want to make sure that we're maybe the as James said, the concierge. We want to be the directory. Let us know. Let us know exactly what you'd like to help with, and we can point you in the direction that that would best fit, especially in the state of Washington. And good to see you again, Kathy. I know we met. We did a one-on-one with
Yeah, we did.
we talked with Rob. It was the three of us.
I'm part of Common Defense. I'm in the Slack, so I
Perfect.
just need to, point me where I need to go to let you know, whether it's email or whatever, so I can kind of get entered into the clearinghouse and help folks out.
The form that I just put in the link, do that one. That way we already have it and we don't have to go fish it out. That'll be the best way. And for anybody who's interested, please use that form. Okay, next on deck. And thanks for the question, Kathy. All right, we got Gene. Brother Gene, good to see you again. Go ahead and come off of mute and please go ahead and ask your question or add your comment.
Yes, my question is, like, for the vets that do have to pack in, waiting for the upgrades and everything, if they are, ICE do take them under custody, are they still able to deport that veteran? Or are they able to wait for the decision, like the upgrades and stuff like that? You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know if anyone here can point.
So
Go ahead,
immigration status has nothing to do with your veteran status, whether you're going through deportation process or you've been deported. There's inherent barriers if you've been deported, like having access to VA sites or foreign medical program hospitals that accept the VA in your country of origin, whether you're in Mexico, Haiti, Trinidad. It may be a little bit more difficult to have access to it, but your veteran status does not change because of your immigration status. But I can't speak on the immigration side of the house of it. Maybe one of the lawyers present will feel comfortable on that.
Can I jump in here right quick?
Go ahead, James.
Yeah, it was a question that had actually come up several times with others because they're concerned that if they have to leave the country, do they leave the access to the benefits that they've applied for? They're in line to get, like whether they're a part of the Camp Lejeune process, where they're a part of PAC process. If they haven't gotten those things or it hasn't been adjudicated at that time, that's what he's asking is, if they deport me, can that stop them from deporting me because I've done the application? But if I'm deported, how do I still have access, or do I still have access to be able to still get those particular benefits?
So I spoke to the VA director yesterday about this. That's one of the questions that a lot of veterans have already asked us, is if they will lose a monetary for disability or for retirement or whatever. The money side has not been taken away from non-citizen veterans yet. Is it possible? Maybe. But you're still a veteran, and it's something that you earned, and it's something that you deserve. And I think everybody in this call, anybody that served, will back me up on this, saying that if you raised your hand, if you took the oath, and you served in the military, you didn't do it to get citizenship, you didn't do it for the retirement, you didn't do it for any of that stuff. You just did it to serve this country. So you're a veteran, you deserve to get that money, and we'll fight for you guys to keep getting that retirement, that disability, that everything. This doesn't stop here. There might be a little hiccup and you might not be getting those benefits so better start saving up. I'm not gonna lie. Those that have been deported, save your money. And we're gonna try to do absolutely everything in our power to fundraise for you guys. We're gonna do absolutely everything that we can to fight this.
Thanks, Vega. Appreciate the info. Kirsten, I don't know if you have anything.
If I may just
Denitza,
jump
there's
in.
Denitza. Okay, go ahead, Denitza.
Yeah, I just want to add on to that. Your VA benefit claim will not be impacted as of today if you are deported. We're not going to speak on the what ifs, at least I'm not, right? But that is something that could be jeopardized in the future, especially how we're seeing this executive orders just being pushed out, without care in the world. So I will back what D Vega said, which is I will recommend begin saving if you have the ability to do so. But if you have a claim in progress, it will not be impacted or stopped because you were deported. What we encourage you to do at ROP is to maintain contact with somebody here that can be an advocate for your case, your VA claim. Just maintain the communication. But even if you are deported and you are getting disability or pension, that payment can be sent to a bank in another country. So yeah.
Thanks for adding that, Denitza. And again, I want to give the floor really quickly. There is 8 minutes left. We want to make sure this time we don't go over like we did last week. We do have Cesar, I see your hands up. Nick, I see yours. But Kirsten, I don't know if you have anything else to add possibly to that claims part.
To piggyback, please reach out to your elected official to push through that claim to get it sooner rather than later.
Yep. Perfect. Thank you. Okay, if there's nothing else to add on that question, which was a great question, then Cesar, you have the floor. Go ahead and come off of mute. Comment or question, please. The OG here.
I'm just commenting on the ICE going into schools. The day of the executive order, right away I went to the office and I went straight. I'm like, hey, what's going on, man? Are we gonna be protected in school, or are you guys gonna let these people in just like, como dicen en español, Pedro por su casa? But so they're saying that they don't know. Right now, they're like, we don't know. We get federal funding. We don't know if we say no, that they're going to pull the funding. So the answer to me from the school was that they don't know. Right now, they don't know. My next step is on Monday. The student government meets. And I'm going to tell them, hey, man, you guys need to make a statement against these fucking ICE race being allowed in our school. And I think it's going to be one of those things that we need to go press all our venues to bring awareness to this. My side, I'm going to be going to the student senate on Monday and tell them to make a statement. And I'm going to press the president of the school to also make a statement because I don't know, man, just violating sanctuary places like churches. I'm like, dude, they didn't even do that in the Middle Ages, yo. That was the one fucking thing, sanctuary. I don't know. I don't know, but I'm trying to find answers. That's my contribution to this conversation.
I appreciate you, Cesar. And folks, if you missed last Saturday and you don't know who Cesar is, please jump back on that YouTube, watch last week. Cesar is the real deal. Nick, floor is yours.
Yeah, so just to piggyback off of what Cesar said, if you are in this space where you have your status a little questionable right now and you're having that great cloud over your head, every day these deterministic factors are compounding and the anxieties redlining. But what can you do is prepare yourself, have a PACE plan, primary, alternate, contingent, emergency. If you're leaving somewhere, if you could leave with someone that's a citizen that has privilege, that all the better. So you'll have somebody to bear witness to your suffering if you come into contact with these law enforcement agencies. If you had to leave by yourself, have a communication plan with people in your community. Use Slack, use WhatsApp, use Signal. These are secure messaging platforms that you could utilize, right? Have a communication plan like, if I don't call you within 30 minutes after me going to the grocery store, wait another 30 minutes, wait an hour. And if that hour passes, then activate your PACE plan. And what I mean by that is like have a contextual email already drafted, sent out to leaders of your community. That means preemptively reaching out to your clergy, establishing relationships with them, because these are social institutions that create the fabric of our society. Reach out to legislative aides like Kirsten, and have all that information that she put in the chat of these request forms, these other permission forms. So the bureaucracy part of it is a lot easier instead of waiting until you're incarcerated to begin the process. And once you're incarcerated, obviously that's a barrier for you communicating to people, right? And also, if you want to be an advocate, little things like a smile is charity, right? If find out what food drives are in your community, look at vulnerable populations and volunteer to go deliver food for them. That lessens their exposure to ICE. Simple things like that. Like I said, an ocean is a multitude of drops. Every one of us participating, and one thing leads to another. By doing advocate things, knocking on doors, it's going to lead to other doors. Other doors are going to get slammed in your face, and that's just the way the cookie crumbles. But I mean, we used to get shot at for a living, so I mean, get busy. I got faith in each and every one of y'all. So go ahead, Oscar.
Thank you, Nick, and well put. I also very, very well put. And I want to highlight my brother Nick, who's brought a lot of passion to this, folks. A lot of folks here. I think Dee and I were talking about it yesterday, Vega. There's folks, you hear the passion. So as all veterans here, we tend to run our mouth. Sometimes it's a little clean, sometimes it's not so clean. No, there's a lot of passion and heart here. I see Stephen Cano next, then Amber, then Al. Those are the three questions we'll take. Folks, I also want to highlight one big thing that Vega did say in this chat that can be a really good thing. Do not isolate yourself. If you know someone or if you are the veteran, do not isolate yourself. Grab the community who you know can support you as best as possible. Stephen Cano, you're on, the floor is yours, sir. Ask your question or say a comment.
Good morning from depending upon where you are. I'm Stephen Cano. I know Ricardo remembers me from years ago. I was a fellow. Good to see you, brother. And so I'm a service officer with the American Legion, although I'm not really inundated with the American Legion because it's a very toxic environment right now, as you know, very conservative, and I lean pretty much to the left. But just want to put it out there that I put in the chat earlier that I'm a service officer. I did about 300 claims last year with significant success. I was working at the VA hospital. I do a lot of research on various things such as appeals and things like that to find back roads into things, to find the routes. But this whole immigration thing is very personal to me. My mother is 94, and I'll condense it. She's 94, and back in 1984, I was in the Army. My first son had been born. I was getting ready to go back to South Korea. Got a phone call saying that my brother, right here, is his picture. He was in the Mexican, either Coast Guard or Navy. I'm not sure which it is, but he had passed away. He had committed suicide. My mother was not able to go home. She was not legal at that time, and I have family in Mexico still. His children, which I'm learning Spanish so I can talk with them and get to know them. So it's a really hard thing for me. So there's a passion in this work, and I just want to put it out there. Anybody that needs claims work, I do the claims work. I do it remotely. I can do it over the telephone. And that's also to offer to Common Defense because of transgender, what's going on with that. I don't want to get off on that tangent, but I just wanted to put it out there for you, and I'm just grateful for this. This is fantastic. Thank you.
Stephen, thank you so much. You will be looped in. You are now part of the network. Thank you so much for that. Thank you. Look at James just getting real excited. All right, Amber, the floor is yours. Please unmute yourself and your comment or question.
Hi, this is for Caesar and for those others who have family members in schools. I'm here in lovely California. I work for a school district, and I know as he was concerned that, is ICE going to be able to come in and take our students or our kids or whatnot? So here in my school district, we do have something from the district office stating, they cannot come in without a warrant. I fortunately and unfortunately deal with records and students, so there's certain policies I have to follow, like can't take pictures of passports and stuff for that reason. So if they do come in and want to take, pictures and they find a passport, they're able to get it. Those videos earlier about, what they can take, it's amazing, but finding out from like your district office or what policies they now have in effect, can they come into your schools, is a very, very valid question. And I know in each state it's different. California here for now is no, they cannot without a warrant, but we got to safeguard our kids, our families, and just back to Brittany there in Texas and your your child who's nonverbal. That's a great plan where you have your audio and thing on the door where you're able to speak because your child can't. That's a great idea because here in California, we see stuff in Palmdale all the time or wherever it may be with these freaking cops shooting fucking kids because they're nonverbal or they're coming at them. And I mean, there's two sides to it, right? And it's just so much going on. And I appreciate your service for everybody and whatever I can do. But yeah, let's just try to be safe and leave our prayers to the Lord, That's all for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Amber. Thank you so much. You can sign up. I see 11 folks have signed up on our form. Sign up to help us out. We'll connect you at whatever comfort level you want to be connected in. We'll definitely sign you up and you can help us as best as possible. All right, we got, I think, Amber, after you, we got Al. And hold on, let me make sure I take that. Okay, we got Al, we got James, and then we got Nick. We are 2 minutes over, folks. I want to make sure that it's not a good Zoom if it doesn't go over, right, Nick? Right, Ricardo? And one of my Zooms doesn't go over, our Zooms doesn't go over. All right, Al, the floor is yours. I think, well, Stephanie, you went off mute for a second. I don't know if you had something to say, but
Yeah,
Al,
I'm all right.
Okay.
Oh, hi, everyone.
Oh, wait, hold on. Who's Stephanie? I see a Zoom that says Stephanie. Stephanie, if you wanted to say something, can you give me 2 seconds? Because
Yeah,
Al was in line.
yeah,
And then
I work with a weekly work group via video chat every Wednesday with a group of vets advocating with vets in the Detroit and Ann Arbor VA system, and
oh, amazing.
Also a lifetime member of the Disabled American Vets, and know the local commander, and me and my brother were active with the local chapter, and any vet that needs any help here in the Detroit area, I can point them in the right direction for any claims or that kind of stuff.
I appreciate that.
And
I put
I'd like to get some, if you can, email me some resources so I can pass it on to the Detroit VA chaplain that deals with all the vets over there in Detroit.
Perfect. That sounds amazing. If you could put your email in the chat, or if you want to sign up on the interest form, I just put that in the chat, then we can definitely get together that way. Or if you want to put your phone number, whatever is the easiest way to
I can give
communicate.
you my email. It's Stephanie_Zammit, ZAMMIT @live.com.
Roger that. Okay. Okay, perfect. We'll get in touch. Thank you so much.
Yep.
Al, the floor is yours. Go ahead and come off of mute.
All right. Hi, you all. Nice.
The audio, Al, the audio's cutting in and
all
out.
this great information. I want to take you guys back maybe about. Okay, can you hear me now? Is that clear?
Yes, we can hear you. Just sounds like a delay, so I'm going to be quiet. Go ahead.
He has to take off his video. That's why he needs to come off video in order for the audio to come through.
Oh,
is that better now?
Yep, I think so.
Yeah, I'm off video. Okay, yeah, just taking you guys back to the question about VA benefits. And the issue with, for example, if you actually get kicked out of the country, deported or whatever it is, because I know from, especially in third world countries, sometimes it's very hard to access either your bank accounts or use your credit cards outside in third world countries once you're away from the US. So my question is it allowed, for example, let's say if you have a family who are either citizens or residents in the US, are you allowed when you're filing for VA benefits to use maybe your relative account instead of using yours? Because then that way, even if you're kicked out, technically they can still access the money and send it to you wherever you go. Is that allowed or is yeah?
some of the brothers, like before the Immigrants Veterans Initiative, actually depended on their family members to have access to their VA benefits check coming into direct deposit, right? You had to, I'm going
Fiduciary.
to reiterate this, you had to be very trustful of that family member. So that's just a heads up. Make sure you trust them with your life, and that they're going to be there when it gets dark. Yeah.
Kirsten, I don't know if you can answer this. I've kind of dealt with this once, but I don't know. Again, this isn't 100% the answer, but I know in some claims there's a fiduciary. So I don't know if that would be one of the questions, or maybe if Al can contact their member of Congress. Again, Kirsten, I don't know if you got a little bit more insight on the VA part of that.
Yeah, I'm familiar with fiduciaries. I'm not sure if that's available for all benefit types. I think what Al maybe was referring to is sometimes if the bank account is not an American-based bank account, that may be an obstacle or a barrier, but definitely reach out to me, Al, and if there's specific benefits for your case, we can reach out to the VA and see how that would be affected if you were deported or you know, in a situation where maybe you didn't have access to that bank account.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it.
Perfect. And Kirsten, I don't know if you want to throw it one more time in the chat, just in case all your info, so Al got it, so doesn't have to scroll back. All right, James, floor is yours.
Thank you, Oscar. I just wanted to make a note so that the people that are still here are cognizant that we're thankful that the LVC put this on, Latin Veteran Caucus, and all the X's and A's and everything that you have to deal with in that prospect. But I want to remind you and to pay attention that you heard from three people that would probably identify as Black in here, so that this is not just a Hispanic situation. So when you're doing your outreach, don't limit your outreach to just people that look like you. You know, make sure that what you realize is this is happening to veterans all around the globe. They're in Asia, they're in the Middle East, they're in Europe, they're in Africa, they're in all through the Caribbean, they're in South America, they're in the Philippines, they're everywhere. We've identified in more than 53 countries of veterans there. So please, that's the message that I just wanted you to take going on from here is as you get this information, don't limit your outreach to just the Hispanic community. Please reach out through all the programs or groups that you are affiliated with and say, hey, listen, here's an issue that we can get behind, and we have a group of people that are already in line to do shit.
Thank you, James. I appreciate you highlighting that very much so. And all of our caucuses. I know Brittany said it a little bit earlier with the Black Veteran Caucus, but all our caucuses, the ones that we're starting to form, are all definitely heavily invested in this as well. Nick, you got the floor, but give me a quick second, Nick, before you go off mic, because I at least hear, did I see correctly? I did. This is an anecdotal story. Jose, our executive director of Common Defense, if this is him on here, I'd love for him to share his story on his advocacy. I learned this at VOI. So as you know, I don't know if folks know here, Common Defense, I did say that our thing is to organize other veterans. We have an institute, the Veteran Organizing Institute, where I learned at that training that our boss, our fearless leader, in the deported veteran space, did his thing advocating for deported veterans. Jose, if you're able to speak, can you hop off mic and give us that quick story? Because I think it's again another example of advocacy.
Yeah, thanks, Oscar, for the shout out. Yeah, the video that Oscar's referring to was an event that we did all the way back in, when was that? That would have been 2016. There was an event in New Hampshire called the First in the Nation Town Hall, where all of these Republican candidates were coming together. So this is like back when the primaries were still happening, the whole clown car of like Republicans running for president. Unfortunately, Trump was not at the event, but people like Marco Rubio and Rick Santorum and Jeb Bush and a bunch of other, esteemed members of Congress. Let's just put it that way nicely, since we're on a C3 call. But yeah, long story short, so we sent a group of vets up to New Hampshire. We did like a bird dogging training. For folks that don't know bird dogging, it's basically, I'm sure you've seen it on social media, where you like go up to an elected official or a CEO of a company or whatever, and you ask them a hard question on camera. So we trained a bunch of vets to do that. We pretended to be Republicans. I think I'm still getting emails from that event. I need to unsubscribe from that shit. But we went into the event and kind of sprinkled ourselves throughout the crowd. And then, the candidates would say their little spiel and then open it up for questions. It was like a town hall style event. And so I got the mic and basically asked Rick Santorum a question about deported veterans, and he was pretty stumped by the question. Number one, because I don't think he expected that kind of question to come from what he expected was a friendly Republican crowd. But I strategically chose that question because I'm Puerto Rican and I served in the Army for almost 15 years. So I introduced myself as a vet. Everybody in the audience clapped because that's what folks are trained to do in this country. And then I hit him with the deported veterans question. So we can share that video out with folks if you want to see it. But yeah, it was just one of the kind of early interventions that we made. I'd be lying if I said Common Defense has been throwing down on this issue for a long time. So thanks to people like Nick and D Vega and Danitza for kind of and James as well for bringing all of this knowledge to the organization so that we can advocate on this going forward.
Thanks, Jose. Yeah, we got to find that video and share it. All right, folks. Nick, the floor is yours. You're the last one who has a hand up, and then we'll close it out here, folks.
All right, so I know somebody brought the school board issue up earlier, and it's a great example of getting engaged locally in politics, right? All politics is local. Before you see it on the federal level, you're going to see it on the city, county, and state level. So you don't need permission to help. You guys are all veterans. Y'all are veterans in this space. Pick up a shovel and start digging. But understand when you go into these spaces, because I get intimidated when I go into these spaces, because I wear Dickies and I rock Timberlands, right? Sometimes power doesn't recognize you. So make sure when you go into these spaces, you go with another community member, community leader, go with the group, because power recognizes power. If you go by yourself, they're going to tell you in a polite way to go fuck yourself. But if you go with the group of you, you're going to see that the community recognizes your power, your authority, and they're going to have to listen to you because you're with other constituents, and constituents vote. So get involved locally, whether it's at the school board, bring this issue up. It doesn't necessarily pertain to veterans, deported veterans, but it pertains to your community. And at this time, in this context, in the time that we're in, we all have to help other social institutions strengthen their foundation, because without that foundation, society will crumble. You know what I mean? So that's a little dark way, but the power is in our hands to make this change. Okay.
Thank you, Nick. I appreciate you sharing that and all your experience and the things that you've done in this space and for community. And that's a big message there, folks. Right? Community. Folks, if there aren't any save rounds, if folks don't have anything else to add, this isn't the last time we're going to be speaking. This isn't the last time we should have this space. All of you who joined, I'd like to thank you so much. If you're already part of Common Defense, you're going to be tapped in. We're going to find you. You're going to tap in either in this space or any other space that we're advocating in. So please keep your alerts on. And then if you are going to be part of this, I'd like to thank everybody, all 11 folks who signed up through the form to be able to plug into this work specifically to advocate for our vulnerable veterans. And yeah, let's enjoy your rest of your Saturday. Did it in the beginning, please. There's going to be a lot of noise coming around us. I know it almost feels hurtful, almost feels intentional. It hits you in the center. But this is what we're here for. We are the community. We're here to rely on each other and be here with each other in community and in solidarity with the folks we want to help with. All right, y'all. Look for the email with all the links and the videos and everything. I appreciate you all. Thank you, D Vega, co-chair D Vega, the LVC. I think we lost Sylvia a little earlier. She's the other co-chair for the Latino Veteran Caucus. Please join us. Join the Black Veteran Caucus, the Women's Veteran Caucus, everything we have to offer here. We have a multitude of resources. Come find us, and we're here for you.